Welcome to this class. This is a complete fire alarm installation and business training. In this training, we're going to be exposing you to the uh, fire alarm technology from scratch. That's ABC of fire alarm, to the advanced level. Okay. All right. So this course will be very straightforward. We'll just be looking at uh, the module. Is going to be module 1 to module 7. Okay, so this is the module. You can take your time to go through it uh, without wasting your time. So let's go straight into the class. Okay, so we're talking about the module 1, which is an introduction to fire alarm system. We'll be looking at the importance of fire alarm, the types and the key components of fire alarm systems. Okay. Okay, so fire alarm system is basically, uh, you know, combination of equipment, devices, detectors, core points, lights, they are all linked to a FACP, fire alarm control panel, which act as a command center. All these signals, they are generated automatically from smoke detector, or when you see this, smoke yourself, there's no fire without smoke. So you can press the call point manually yourself to alert the people in the house to be aware that there's about to be a fire outbreak, so they can all run to the muster point. So this is very important. So basically, it's a very straight technology. All these components just connect together to a FACP. Then, when you trigger the alarm, which is the manual call point, MCP, or when the smoke detector detects the smoke automatically by itself, it triggers the alarm. That's basically it. So this is a diagram for your perusal. Look at the detectors. You can see this is a two-zone panel. This is a two-zone panel, which is conventional. Look at the way the connection goes from the control panel to zone 1, equipment 1, which is detector, the equipment 2, device 2, which is a MCP, and device 3, which is its detector. Okay, if you look at the end of the line, we have the EOL, end of the line resistor, end of line resistor. That's what it means. It basically complete the circuit. So if the EOL is not there, the circuit is going to be open. So it will be very difficult for the system to detect faulty devices, faulty equipment on the chain. All right. So it's very important that that EOL is there. We'll be doing the practical when we get to the class to see how to connect the EOL to ensure everything works well. So this is just the typical scenario of a fire alarm system. So you mount your smoke detectors all over the rooms. Then heat detectors is for the kitchen because you're expected to have smoke in the kitchen. So you can't be getting false alarm because if you put a smoke detector in the kitchen, there's going to be like a consistent alarm that's going to be sounding. But you're frying plantains, you're frying fish, you're frying meat, there's going to be a lot of smoke. So that smoke is an expected smoke. It's not a dangerous smoke. So we should welcome it. So the only thing to do is to use an heat detector in the kitchen. So when the heat gets to a certain amount, that can lead to fire. The device at the kitchen, which is the heat detector, it senses that heat level and triggers the alarm. Send a signal to the panel, and the panel trigger the alarm. You can see the hooters. Some people use bells. Some people use a sounder flasher. So basically his work is to alert the people around. So this is a typical scenario of a fire alarm solution. The cable you are seeing there is a fire resistant cable. That is the best cable to use for fire alarm system. Fire resistant cable is very available in the market, and in the case of maybe you can't find the FCB, the fire alarm resistant cable, you can use a regular, pure, original copper electrical cable, red and black. It's not the best, but it's better you use the uh, the fire resistant cable. In case of you can't get access to that particular cable, you can use the red and black, 1.5 mm pure copper original cable. That will also serve. Then you do your chain connection, and at the end of the line, you put your resistor, end of line resistor. So basically, that's the diagram. In this training, we're going to be going into the details and the practical session on this fire alarm system. So these are the ways fire alarm can save lives. We look at the early detection, look at the fire alarm detection, before the fire becomes large. It detects the fire before it becomes very large. So you can just peruse all these things, just not to waste our time. We want to go straight to the class, straight to the details. Okay, so like you said, this class is going to be very detailed and very straight to the point. So this is the end of this particular first topic in this module one. I'll see you in the module two, in the course two. See you. Okay, so welcome back. Welcome back to this class. Okay, in this class, we'll be talking about the types of fire alarm systems. You need to know the types. So before we enter the more details, so let's talk about the types. We have the conventional fire alarm system. We have the addressable fire alarm system. We have the wireless, or some people call it sometimes standalone fire alarm systems. So you have to understand these three types and the way they work, the way they operate, because we're going to engage with them, in different field or sites that you find yourself eventually. So let's go straight into it. This is the conventional fire alarm system. It's very straightforward. Basically, it comes in zones. It comes in zones. If you want to buy this kind of panel, they'll tell you in the market how many zones do you want to buy. We have the one zone, we have the two zones, we have four zones, we have the six zones, we have the eight zones, like that. So when you are buying, you have to know the zones you want to buy. So it's basically very straightforward. The zones means uh, when you are trying to, for instance, you have a two-story building, you want to be able to separate the ground floor on zone one, the first floor on zone two, meaning that all the equipment on the ground floor, the smoke detectors, the heat detectors, the break glass, and the other equipment will be linked to zone one. Do you get that now? Then zone two now, which is the first floor, the smoke detector, the heat detector, the break glass will be linked to zone two on the panel. So when there's a fire outbreak on the ground floor, the zone one indicators on the panel will be blinking, telling you that this fire is coming from zone one, which is ground floor. If it's upstairs, which is zone two, the upstairs zone, which is zone two, will be flashing on the panel, which will tell you is zone two that the fire is coming out from. So in all these kind of panels now, we have the one that has screens and the one that doesn't have screens. Mostly the one that has screen is actually better to me. It's better because you can see, you can operate, you can press and see, just like the way you press your phone and send issue commands and you get reply. But for the one that doesn't have screen, it's just you pressing buttons and seeing indicator lights that is telling you what is going on. So I usually advise for the one that has screen. So for the purpose of our practical, we'll be using the one that have screen so we can understand, these operations and all. So zone one, zone two. If it's a big building, you can do like a four-story. You can do zone one, zone two, zone three, zone four, which is ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor. So when something happens, you'll be able to be notified. And it's ideal you put your panel close to the exit point, maybe on the ground floor by the security post, so you can be able to go and check it if in case of fire had to break. Because if you put it on the first floor or second floor, who wants to go there to check when there's a fire? Everybody's mind is to escape and run away. So it's ideal you put it on the ground floor in a very secure place and still be accessible and open for people to go and check. Okay, all right, that's that for conventional. So let's look at addressable. Basically, addressable uh, fire alarm is the kind of fire alarm that has, you know, the equipment, all the equipment on the chain, on the dicey chain, they have their name. You can give them a name. The living room, the kitchen, first floor, the lobby downstairs, the master's bedroom. So all the equipment on the chain, on the system, will have their number and their names. So when there's a fire outbreak, it will not be telling you a particular zone. Zone is a long or wide area. But this addressable sense, just like the way the name implies, is addressed. All the detectors and devices and alarm devices are addressed. So when there's a trigger from a floor, you know the actual point where the fire is coming out from. That is the idea of the addressable system. It's smarter and is way more expensive compared to the conventional. It's smarter, it can do a lot of functions, so that's just the difference. And the chain, the cable topology is different. For the conventional, we told you that we're going to link all the devices together. At the last device, you put the end of line resistor. All right. Then the zone two, you do the same thing. There's a chain loop. You connect everything together, devices to devices. Break glass, heat detector, smoke detector, the end of line resistor. That's for conventional. But for addressable, is a loop. So everything still come back to the panel. You can see in this diagram. By the time you link all the smoke, to heat detector, to hooters, to break glass, to smoke detector, is coming back. The cable is coming back to the panel. That's for addressable. All right. It's way more expensive, like I said. Then let's look at the wireless solution. So basically, wireless is just a standalone kind of system. It can be a standalone where you just put your battery inside the device and it senses smoke, it triggers the alarm automatically. Or you can use this kind of method that you have a central panel, which is wireless also. So all this equipment connects to this central panel wirelessly using some repeaters and extenders. So when there's a fire, the central panel can send a signal to this alarm. Then the alarm can alert the environment that is a fire outbreak. Okay, so wireless is actually very good in some kind of environment like shop, small offices, in some homes. It's cost effective and very affordable and easy to install. Typically, the battery can last up to 1 year depending on the quality of the battery. So we advise for some installations for you to deploy the standalone fire alarm system. So you can be able to sell it. It's easy. You can log on to AliExpress or maybe Temu, import all these things and keep them at your offices or your homes and market yourself online and you sell them. You can, put if you buy for like a certain amount, you can have like 30% and sell, which is not bad. That's another way to make money for yourself. Just have a niche for yourself in the fire alarm industry. You are posting, you are engaging your audience, you are putting on your WhatsApp. Okay, so that's that for this particular module, for this particular course. Uh, I'll see you in the next class. Okay, so welcome back to this class. We'll be talking about the key components of a fire alarm system. Like we said, a fire alarm is a system, which means it's a combination of different equipment and devices. They are all, interconnected and they're working together to achieve a common purpose of alerting people in case of a fire outbreak. So basically that's the work. It's a connection of different devices, combination of devices, which is the smoke detectors, the heat detectors, the MCP and the FACP. you know. Then the cables, the fire resistant cable, in some cases we have the end of line resistors. Sometimes we have the communication module to be able to transmit, send alerts and calls or notification to the fire service and the fire centers. Sometimes we use the GSM fixed wireless terminals to send out, alerts, to fire service. Okay. All right. So this is the smoke detectors and the heat detectors. They look alike most scenario. They look so much alike. You have to look at the specification on the body to be sure that okay, you're not buying the wrong device. The smoke detector and the heat detector, they look so much alike. Okay, so that's the picture. There's a base where we mount them. We'll show you in the practical class where you screw all these devices and just fix them and you twist and it locks and that's it. All right, so we'll get there at the practical session. This is your FACP, or some people call it a FACP, Fire Alarm Control Panel. So this is the brain of the system. It's the one that receives all the signals from all detectors. Detectors are the notification detectors and the alert detectors, alarm detectors alarm devices rather. So the notification detectors, they all connect to this panel. All right. So which is the smoke detector, the heat detector, and the break glass, the manual core point. They all interconnect to this guy. Then the standard flasher. And sometimes we advise master blaster, which is very loud. It can be in front of the building. So when there's a fire outbreak, it's rolling and making a hell of noise. So everybody in that neighborhood can know that there's a fire outbreak in the building. So this is very important to deploy or to inform your client. Okay, so we have the alarm notification devices. These are sirens, these are bells, and they are flashing. They flash and warn people, in case of fire outbreak. All right. So this is them. They are usually 24 volts, and as some are 12 volts actually. But it's better you maintain your 24 volt DC because your panel is 24 volt DC. So all the equipment you're going to be using on the chain is 24 volt DC. All right. So this is very important for us to note down when we're doing our deployment and installation or maintenance or even troubleshooting. You have to be sure that you check your power ratings or you are sure of your power ratings of your devices before you continue. Then we have the panel, we have the power supply. This is very, very, very important, because you have to get backup to back up all your devices in case of power failure. Because power failure can, affect or even damage your devices. So it's better you always back it up. And in case of fire outbreak, and when there's fire, sometimes the light goes out. The light usually goes out. Okay, so this is power supply. It's very important. You have to ensure uh, that everything is backed up to avoid, you know, power failure at the time that you need the devices to be active to alert you where the issue is coming out from. You can see it mostly uses two battery, which is 24 volts. So all the other devices on the network on the chain have to be 24 volts. It's very important to note this. And most of these panel nowadays, they have their inbuilt chamber for batteries. You just connect the terminals, the battery terminals to them, and they power your system, they power the panel itself. Instead of you getting an external power supply, you just get, you know, a panel that has support for batteries. All right. Okay, so this is the MCP, manual call point. So it's just basically for you to press when you see fire, and it's send a signal to the FACP, then that can now send signal to the sounder flasher or the bell, so you can get notified or notification, so everybody can move to the muster point of the structure, in case of fire outbreak. Then we have this cable, which is a fire resistant cable. It's a very good cable. We have by Vencroft. We sell by Vencroft or by the Vencroft Snowborn cable. It's a very good cable. Uh, it's ideal in case of fire outbreak. The cable won't get easily damaged or burnt. All right. So this is very, very important for you to add to your quotation when you are doing your bill of material. It's very important. But in the case your client is having difficulty to get this kind of cable, you can also use the red and black electrical cable, pure copper. You can see the copper content of this cable is pure straight copper and it's about 1.5 mm. This particular one here. All right, so you can get similar cable for electrical cable. It will still serve the same purpose and give you exactly what you need. Okay, so this is the end of module one, which is the uh, introduction to the component and fire alarm system. This is the end of this particular module. I'll see you in the next module. All right. Thank you for your time. Okay, so welcome back to this class. In this module two, we'll be talking about fire alarm system design. We have to understand the design of a fire alarm. Okay, so basically, we'll now be talking about the zones, fire detection zones, and the placement of your detectors and panels, and the MCP, then the layout and designs. That's what we're going to be talking about in this module. Okay, so if you look at this design now, look at the building. Let's assume this is a four-story building. Look at the ground floor, the first floor, the second floor, and the last floor. Okay, so basically, our fire detection zones is ways of zoning your locations based on their areas and proximity. So, in this kind of scenario now, this diagram we have, let's study it carefully. We have a four zone panel. That's what we are using for this installation, four zone panel, meaning that zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4. So all the equipment on zone 1, we are putting them on the last floor, which is zone 1. So meaning that based on this diagram, we only have one device, which is one smoke detector and one break glass. So the two devices on you know zone one. Okay, let's pay attention zone one. So now, meaning that this cable from this zone one smoke detector and zone one break glass are coming down to the panel. All right. Then for zone two, we run a cable again from this smoke detector to the other smoke detector by the staircase, then down to the break glass, then down to the panel zone two. You will have seen the label zone one, zone two, zone three. Each of the zone has their own cable terminals for positive and negative. So you just run your cable like that, which is a loop, chain connection, then down to the panel. The same thing for zone three and last zone, which is zone four. Right? So on each of the zone, at the last equipment or device, you're going to be using the EOL, end of line resistor, to show you that it's a closed circuit, normally closed circuit. So the line can detect any faulty equipment or devices on that zones. Okay, so it's very important to understand these zones. So when you have a project, you're asked to come and put a fire alarm on a huge building, learn how to zone. That's if you're using conventional panels, learn how to zone. All right, I didn't even see this staircase. The staircase has another zone. So all the devices on the staircase belong to one zone. That's five zones. So they are using five zone panels for this kind of installation. Five zone panel. Pardon me for that. I didn't say that clearly. Okay, so five zone panel. All right, so the idea is for you to just zone your areas. So when there's a fire outbreak, you know where it's coming from. That's the idea of zoning. It's very straightforward. Let's look at this design also. If you look at this one, explanatory. Look at the wiring from each of the floors, equipment to device to device to device, down to the control panel, which is down there. And the second floor, the same thing. The third floor, the same thing. The ground floor, the same thing. So, and each of the floor has their own sounder flasher, which is that thing on the left that is wired down. You can see the sounder flasher has its own line of cable. It has its own line. It does not connect to the notification devices and the alarm devices, which is the break glass and the smoke detectors or heat detectors. It has its own line of cable, the same kind of cable. All right. So it goes straight from the first floor, second floor, third floor, and the ground floor, all straight down to the panel. So when there's a fire outbreak, everything rings just to alert the entire building, not just the zone where the fire is coming out from. So the entire building get notification and run out of the structure just to go to the muster point for safety. So this is very important. All right, so for example, okay, we say a zone one might be covering the lobby reception area. Zone two, this is a real life scenario. You are called to an hotel, for instance, to do a survey and advise them on fire alarm installation. You can see now, you can zone the entire structure into three zones. This will now advise you the kind of equipment you're going to buy in. It's very important. So you have to learn how to zone. You get a building now, a complex. They want you to put fire alarm as an integrator, as an installer, as an expert. You have to zone the building. Oh, this area is closed. I'll put it on zone one. This other area, they are close to each other. They are nearby. They're easily connected. Zone two. The next one, zone three, zone four. So this will advise you the kind of panel you are going to be buying. So when you get to the market, you tell the market person based on your budget, conventional panel or addressable panel. Oh, I want a conventional panel with four zones because when I do my zoning of my site, it's four zones or it's three zones, but let me buy four zones in case my client want to add more zones, more areas in the future. Okay, so this is very important for conventional. It's called zoning. You have to learn to zone. Then for addressable, also, you can see addressable too can be zoned. But mind you, addressable are all connected on a loop, and there is a return cable that comes back to the panel in the control room. You have to note this wiring structure. It's very, very important when you are setting up a system. So the cable will come down back to the panel. In this scenario, all the devices, sounder, detector, MCP, they are on the same chain, and it goes back to the control panel. All right. It's very, very important to understand this. In this scenario, we're not using the end of line resistor, and we still categorize them on zones. So we can know that okay, this area is this zone, this area is this zone. But trust me, all these devices on the network, they have their own address. They can be addressed. In some cases, you can give them names. Oh, living room upstairs, living room downstairs, lobby, kitchen, ground floor, kitchen, first floor, uh, core point, first floor, core point, second floor. So when there's a fire outbreak, you know the actual point where the fire is coming from, the actual location. So you can go there and address it and quench the fire. So it's very important, and this is ideal for skyscrapers, for high-rise building, condos, because it's smart. You can address a fire at the point where it is, going on. The fire point, you'll be able to identify the actual point where the fire is coming out from and go and address it from there. Instead of you running, or in the case of conventional, looking at zones. Zones is an entire area. It can be from a particular point, but you don't know the point, you just know the zones. That's for the conventional. But for addressable, you know the actual smoke detector or alarm notification devices where the trigger is coming from. Then you can go there with your extinguisher, with your fire blanket to address the fire. Okay? So I hope you understand this particular class. This is the end of this particular class. I'll see you in the next class. Okay, so welcome back to this class. This is class 2.2. We're talking about detector placement and coverage. Basically the way you position your smoke detectors. You have to pay attention to how to capture the actual areas. So the detector should be placed, where there's likely to be fire outbreak, close to your DB, electrical DB, close to your maybe changeover in the house, all right, close to where you have some clusters of cables, kitchen hallways, the stairway, the bedroom, the storage area where you hardly go there to check something, just store products there. Fire can break out from there, where you have electric panels and stuff like that. So each detector also has an area where they can cover. So you have to look at your specification of your detectors when you're buying it. Pay attention to these specifications. They are very, very important because that will determine the number of detector you're going to buy. The detector, how to mount them, the best angle to position them. When you're buying a detector, pay attention to the specification. It's very, very important. All right. So let's pay attention to all these things when we're buying detectors. Then also let's go to the where we can see like a typical diagram. Okay, so this varies from detector to detectors. You have to pay attention to the manuals. So when you buy a detector or a detector you've not used before, you're using it for the first time, the standard procedure is for you to carry the manual and see the angle of coverage before deployment. Study the manual, so you can know the standard heights and the angle of coverage of the detector. So it's important to pay attention to all these small, small details so you can have a successful and a standard installation. All right. So this is the end of this particular topic. See you in the next topic. Okay, so in this module, we'll talk about system layout and design. Okay, so you are called upon to come and carry out an inspection and implementation of fire alarm system. You have to plan your design. You have to plan your design well, and you have to look at your layout, how to where to the equipment you need, how to position them. So these are the equipment you'll be needing. First of all, you have to look for the best fire detection devices to procure, which is the sensors. Uh, the heat detectors, the smoke detectors, and what have you. All right, so the next is the control panel. You have to, be able to count your number of smoke detector you'll be needing per area, or per zone or per loop. Then you now check your cable route and see how to route your cable. Then how to connect your the position to place your manual core point (MCP) or the sounder flasher, in each of the zones or loop. You have to understand all these devices. You have to count thoroughly. Like I said, it's advisable you deploy your MCP at the exit point, maybe on the corridor, at the door, outside the structure, so somebody can press and escape. You get, because when there's a fire outbreak, everybody mind is to escape. So the MCP should be at the point where you can press and escape. All right. So the power supply and the communication equipment and the wiring. The wiring, we mentioned that we have to be using a fire resistant cable, or we use electrical cable, red and black, which is a 1 mm or 1.5 mm pure copper, is advisable to be used, in an installation to ensure a smooth and clean installation. All right. Then you have to also make sure you put uh, muster points, the sign for muster points where everybody can assemble. And also, like endeavor to also apply or make available a fire extinguisher, then train them on how to activate the extinguisher. If possible, if it's a sensitive environment, you can work a hose, a fire hose, maybe just connect it to the existing water, uh, facility in the building. So when there's a fire outbreak, you can roll the hose to the point to quench the fire. Okay. All right. So let's look at the other layout consideration. You have to look at the strategic detector placement. You have to position the detector near the ceiling, near the hallway, in the kitchen, high risk areas, the area that I think fire will likely break out from. Like I said, from the DB point, electrical points in the house, the AC in a clustered point where you have multiple wires, the stores. All right. So clear escape routes. Alarms must be loud and visible to help people to evacuate. It must be very loud. Like I said, master blaster is advisable for external use because it's so loud. So, but the entire uh, area or environment should be aware that something is happening at that particular building, so they can call for help. Right? Then zoning, you have to understand the concept of zoning, by trying to zone your area, zone the entire building into different zones. Okay, so this is very important also. And you have to look at compliance. You have to follow the state safety codes and conduct in your regions to ensure that everything is intact. Some regions you have to get a muster point, you have to get extinguisher on each of the floors, you have to get a fire blanket and put it on the floors. So check out your fire service in your region, depending on the industry you are or you are working for, you are installing the equipment for. What are the best practice, or the requirements of the regulation body in that locality, and you have to abide by these rules in case of fire outbreak, so you will not be held responsible or accountable for any loss of property or life. So you have to follow the guideline and also ensure you test your equipment regularly to ensure they are up and running all the time. Okay, so this is the end of the module 2. See you in module 3. Thank you. Okay, so welcome back to this class. This is module 3 of the complete fire alarm installation and business training. Okay, uh, we'll be talking about the fire alarm system installation. This is where we'll do the real thing, and we'll show you all the tools and equipment that you need to install a fire alarm system. Also, we'll be looking at the installation of devices and the safety uh, side of the whole installation process. Okay, so let's go straight into it. Uh, for the installation, you need some tools. You have to obviously drill, if it's a decking, and if it's a POP ceiling, you can use a black screw to screw your devices. You need your screwdriver, your drilling, your strippers. You need your multimeters. These are very important to do continuity test and electrical connection, voltage testing, and all. Okay, all right. So these are the equipment again. The diagram. You have to get them ready as a professional. So the more tools you have, the more you'll be able to troubleshoot and test for issues and problems, and make sure everything is intact and you don't have any problem on the lines and the cables. This is very important. This is very important. You have to get all these tools as the technicians. This is what they will differentiate a a quack from professionals. The kind of tools, machineries, equipment you have to work with. Okay, so look at the equipment to be installed. You know, the FACP, the fire alarm control panel. You have to mount it, on the wall, and make sure that all the cables are well structured to this device. You know, and on the fire alarm control panel, you have all the terminals where you have to connect all your devices. It's already indicated on the terminals. Then the smoke detectors, you mount them on the roof and wire them to your control panel. Then the MCP, the manual core point, the sender and strobe lights. You need your cables and wiring, to be ready. Then the power supply, like I said, most of these devices now they use uh, two batteries, 12 volt times 2, which is 24 volts. It has to be ready and made available for a seamless installation. All right. In the next module, we'll be talking about we're doing the live, we'll be watching the live connection and how everything is being connected. So you have to just get the theory, understand the way it works first, and then we'll now go straight into the practical session. This is the end of this particular module class. See you in the next class. Okay, so welcome back to this class. In this class 3.2, we'll be talking about installing fire alarm devices. Okay, so already we all know the devices we're talking about here. The smoke detectors, the heat detectors, the manual core points, running of the cables, the fire resistant cable, and the fire alarm control panel, FACP. So this is very important. We have to know this as a technician, as an installer, as an integrator. So we have to plan our site properly, cable layout, the kind of cable we are running, the route, and how to, ensure that the pipes they are interconnected because of the loop we are going to be doing for uh, the kind of cable, the topology we are going to be using. This is very important. That's the first thing to do. Those are preliminary stages. You have to ensure that your piping, the cables, everything are intact because the whole equipment is going to be riding, on that cable, quality of cables and all. So mounting control panel also is very important. You have to ensure that you maintain the standard height, where it can be accessible for people to check in case of outbreak. So in this next video, we're going to be watching like a uh, ways to connect for a conventional system. So let's watch. You place your smoke detector in different locations. Then you also factor your heat detectors and your manual core points. They are all wired. They are all positioned in different locations. The kitchen, the lobby, the entrance, the exit point, and other areas, important areas. If you look at this diagram now, we have the EOL, end of line resistor. You can see each of the lines, each of the zones has its own EOL. This is very important. Okay, so let's continue. If you look at the diagram clearly, you see the EOL, then you see the cable. The cable are the live and the neutral cable. The live and neutral cable, you can see the first one, live and neutral, they are for electricity because nothing works without electricity. So we have to power our device. Then look at the red cable, which is the positive cable. It's going all the way from the control panel to the first smoke detector, from the smoke detector to the manual core point, from the manual core point to the heat detector, then that's the last device on the line, on the chain. So if it's 10 devices, you have to loop them together like this. And the last one will have the end of line resistor. This part is very important. This is just basically what you are doing. So the pipe has to link from the smoke detector to the manual core point. There's a link. So when you're running the cable, you drop for smoke detector, you tie the cable. That's how we usually do it. You tie the cable there, you go to the next point, you tie it, you go to the next one, you tie it, till you get to the last point and get your system ready for mounting of devices. You now start mounting one after the other. Then at the last equipment, last device, be it smoke detector or break glass, you have to use the end of line resistor. It's very important. There's some people argue that it's always very good to use it or smoke detector as the end device. Some will say they prefer break glass as the end device. Okay, depending on what works for you. Okay, so look at the outer now. Some people call it outer, some people can call it, you can use sounder or flasher or bell. So it has its own direct cable or connectivity from the panel to the outer itself. That's a direct connectivity. Is on its own. So this part is very important. You have to pay attention and lay a lot of emphasis to this. So with this now, when there's a fire on any of these smoke detector or heat detector, you send a signal to the panel, then the panel activate the alarm or the outer, and you can go and address it either with your smoke, with your fire extinguisher or fire blanket to quench the fire. Okay, so that's that for conventional. Lay emphasis on the end of line resistor and the way the wire is run. So we have to look at that. And let's go to the next slide, which is for the addressable. You can see that's the panel. The panel is mounted. Then we have the detectors, smoke detectors, then the manual core point, then the heat detector. Then look at the configuration. The outers, they are down. Then let's pay attention and look at the wiring. It's coming from the other side. Let's watch closely. Okay, so the wire for live and neutral for the electricity, just like the way we did at the other side, which is for the conventional, it has to be a power cable for power electricity. Okay, so for the smoke detector, we have to lay a cable from the panel to the first smoke, to the second manual core point, to the heat detector, then to the loop isolator. You can see the loop isolator there. The loop isolator is basically uh, acting, you know, like a device that corrects and monitor and prevents faults from one detector from affecting the other detector on the loop. For instance, if the first smoke detector now has a problem or has a bad current or issue, it will not affect the others. So the loop isolator is the one that is responsible for ensuring that he isolates any bad equipment or devices on the loop for the addressable. For conventional, we use end of line resistor. But for addressable, you have to activate and use your isolator loop isolator. So when you're planning your uh, addressable installation of system, you have to envisage or plan for loop isolator. It's a very important device. Some people will argue that they don't need it, but it's very dangerous. If anything happens to any of your devices on that loop, it can affect the entire loop or the next loop. So it's better and always ideal for you to ensure that you have your loop isolator you know, in place to avoid faults from one devices getting to the other device on your loop. Since they're all acting as a chain, as a dicey chain, as a loop from this to this to this to the end, then back to the panel. So if one is broken, it can affect the other. So the loop isolator uh, will help us to resolve that. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So look at the devices that we're going to be installing. You know, First of all, we have to ensure that the wiring is intact. Then install your detectors and you position your notification devices, which is the strobes and the sirens. Then MCP manual core point to do your connectivity. You connect everything and you do your testing and commissioning and activate your maintenance straight. There should be a maintenance agreement. All right. Then compliance and maintenance between you and your vendor. Let them know that on a monthly basis or 3 month basis or yearly basis, you have to come and service your smoke detector, service your panel, check for faults and issues. Okay. So what we just did now, the video we just watched is a typical diagram. You can see the loop isolator and the sounder flasher at the other left side. These are all important in a full system. This is for conventional and addressable. You can see the design. Okay. All right. So this is the end of this particular uh, class. We'll see in the next class. We promise to make this very brief and straight to the point. So we won't bore you and you get the actual point. So when we get to the practical class, we are going to be seeing how we're going to be connecting all these devices. Thank you very much. See you in the next class. Welcome back to this class. This is 3.3, which is installation safety. Safety is very important when you're carrying out your installation of fire alarm system. So first safety measure that is very important we take is power isolation. What is power isolation? It's basically disconnecting electricity means from your panel. Make sure it's not connected to electricity when you're doing your connection. It's when you are done with all your connection, your connectivity, that's when you can, now connect your power. Then use the correct wiring. Make sure you use power. Okay, excuse me. So make sure you use fire resistant cable. Then you follow guidelines of manufacturers, you know, when you are deploying. Then proper placement, install detectors away from air vents, direct sunlight and high humidity. So, so these are the measures we have to take. All right, there are a lot of them. You can also look at this other one: secure mounting, testing and verification, protective gear, regulatory compliance. These are very important when you are installing. There's some area that you're going to be working. You have to be fully kit for you to be allowed to work on the site. Your helmet, your safety boots, your jacket, reflector, all this have to be intact because your safety is very important. If you're not in good health and good state, you will now be able to deliver a project. So your safety is extremely important on a site. Uh, we have to look at safety in anything we are doing. Okay, so installation safety, let's look at this diagram. To avoid fire, we have to be very careful with the kind of cable we use, power isolation, and protect all our terminals. That should be all the screws should be well tightened because at the base of the smoke detector there is a terminal where you have to tighten your positive and negative. There must not be bridging in this cable. Partial contact should be avoided. It should be well screwed to the base. We're going to show you when we're showing you the practical connectivity side. So this is very important. Safety first, extremely important. Okay, so this is very brief class about safety when you're installing. In summary again, ensure that you use original cable and you do power isolation. Isolation, remove electricity, don't connect it yet until everything is well set up and ready to be tested. All right, then let your battery, the two battery, which is 12 volts, let it be well placed inside the panel. Then you do your connection before you do your power up. All right, so the battery can be fully charged before you can hand over and commission the site. Okay, so this is the end of this class. I'll see you uh, in module 4. Thank you. Welcome back to this class. This is a complete fire alarm installation and business training. So we'll be talking about the fire alarm system configuration briefly here. Then this program will focus majorly on programming the control panel itself. Control panel is the engine, is the control, is the motherboard where all the devices are connected to. So how to program it. We'll be looking at the theory. Then in the practical class, we'll elaborate and show you how to do the basic programming. Then also we'll be talking about the system testing and commissioning. Then it's creating fire alarm with other systems. So let's go straight into the class. Okay, like I said, programming fire alarm control panel involves setting up the system to detect and respond to fire incident effectively. So basically, just to program, so the manual that comes with every device you are working with, you have to learn how to study manuals. In fire alarm system, you can't say, oh, you already know about this, so you use the knowledge of this to work on this. Sometimes it works, sometimes, you know, I know they all work on the same with the same principle, but it's always good to focus on the manual of the particular board or panel you are working with. It's very, very important. So you have to also uh, take your time to study the manual. Then meanwhile, for this purpose, we'll be looking at Chloride UK because Chloride UK is a very good brand that we've used several times. It's an entry level and a very affordable system, and it's quite affordable. All right. So to program the Chloride UK panel, you have to ensure that you turn off the power. The power is very important. That side is what you have to just initially take out your power. Ensure that it's not in power. That's what we call the power isolation. If you remember in the beginning of the class, power isolation. So to program a UK chloride two-zone fire alarm panel, you have to access the control, the programming module. You understand? Which is you have to switch to the programming mode of that panel. Most of the panel in the market, there is a key that comes with them. With this key, you can switch to programming mode. So in that mode, you can, program your fire alarm panel. You can configure your smoke detector, your zones. All right. You can assign detectors and call points to the respective zones. You can set alarms, notification. You know, you can do all the things you have to do. So when you are done, programming all your equipment, all your devices, assigning zones, you have to exit the programming mode by turning the key back to the normal position. You will have seen it on that interface. So when you open your fire alarm panel for the first time, you see all these accessories, the manual, the key, everything comes with it as far as brand new. All right. So whatever product you are, using, you're going to be, paying attention to this uh, manual and the kit that comes with it. So key and steps that are involved in programming your panel are the following. All right. So you have to insert the key, the programming key into the panel and turn it to the designated position to enter programming mode. You have to just turn it. For Chlora UK, usually mark as high. You see high on that port. Just turn it to the high or access level 2. All right. So when you turn it, you can now use your button. It has a button and a screen. If it's a screen version you are using, it has a screen. So you can now use your button to navigate to the zones and assign detectors, to your zones. You can even assign a descriptive name to each of the zone based on the building layout, e.g. ground floor. For instance, zone 1 can be ground floor. All the equipment on ground floor is on zone 1. All right. So you can assign zone. So after that, you can now assign device to zones. All the devices can be assigned to zone. First of all, create your zones. Then you can now add devices to zones. You select smoke detectors, heat detectors, call points, and you can assign them to a particular zone that you have created. Then also, you can also now go and set your alarm. After that, you can set alarm, configure alarm notification options like audible sounders, visual strobes, depending on the kind of alarm you are using. You can now test and verify. The steps are very easy. You can now test and verify after assigning and setting alarm. Test and verify. You can perform a test function on each of the zones to ensure all detectors and sounders are responding correctly. It's very important to carry out these tasks. So after this, you have to exit the key back to the normal position to exit the programming mode and save the changes. This is very important. This is just the steps. All right. You can see step 1. Let me just briefly explain again. You have to define your zones. So step 1, you have to switch to the programming mode first. Let your panel be in programming mode using that key that comes with it. Switch it to programming mode. Step 2, define your zones. All right. Step 3, assign devices to zones. You can say, okay, all these devices on this floor, they belong to these zones. Step 4, set alarm settings. Set alarm settings. You have to set the setting of the alarm. All right. The next one is test and verify. When you have done your testing and verification, you can now exit the programming mode. This is very simple. This applies to most, panels. But as I said earlier on, you have to pay attention to the panel you are using and take your time to study the manual and understand the guide, how the manufacturers want you to go about with the programming. So you have to pay attention to manuals. Manual is very important, in this class. Okay, so we'll be doing the practical in the practical class where we'll be powering up a panel for you to see step by step, and I will test one of the equipment for you to understand. Okay, so this is the end of this particular class. I'll see you in the next class, which is 4.2. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, after installing your fire alarm system, you have to do a test. Let all your clients or some of the major people, the technical people, or the security department be aware that you're carrying out a test, so they can inform the entire people on the structure that test is going on, and they will be aware that you're going to do a test, so they won't be panicking and be scared. Okay, so to test your fire alarm panel, you need to press the designated button. There's a button on the panel. There's a button, they call it the test button. So the button will activate all the connected smoke detectors and alarms on the structure, on the building that link to that particular panel. This will allow you to verify if they are sounding properly, because this is very important. You have to ensure that they're sounding properly. Then before you do this, like I said, always ensure to announce the test, beforehand, to avoid unnecessary panic, and follow established procedures for your system according to the guide from the manufacturer. So how to follow the procedure. Okay, there are some key points that we highlighted that you have to remember when you are doing your test. Number one, announce the test. Announce to the occupants or the workers that you are carrying out a test. So you can announce over the intercom, or you can communicate to them, that you are doing a test, so that they should not panic, and when they hear some kind of funny sound, they should just be, test is ongoing, so they will be prepared. So access the control panel and locate the fire alarm control button, which is the test button. Locate the fire alarm control panel and identify the test button. The test button will help you to, when you press it down, it will send a signal to all the connected devices, and they will bring a sound, and that sound will tell you that they are all working. They are very important. It's important you test it before you hand over to your client. All right. Then check all alarms. You have to confirm carefully and ensure that all the smoke detectors and the sounder, they are making that alarm. Ensure that everything, if it's 100, test all the devices. Ensure they are working, because you don't know where the actual fire will come from eventually when an event occurs. So it's ideal for you to ensure that all devices are all working. Then after doing all these tests, you have to reset the system. You have to reset the system back to the normal mode. You have to follow depending on the panel you are using. All these panel, they have their own configuration based on manufacturers. So the panel you are using will determine your setup and your configuration. This is very important. Another way to test is to carry your aerosol detector tester. You can buy this spray tester. You can just spray it to your uh, smoke detector. Then it send a signal to the panel, and the panel can activate the alarm. And the whole house will be alerted that there is about to be fire, so they can all evacuate and leave that space. But if it's for heat, that's how you can use your you know maybe your any heat source that you have to bring heat to the device. So when the device senses the heat, it activates the panel, and the panel can notify the entire structure, via the alarm and sound and flasher, that there is about to be a fire. All right. So it's very straightforward. We'll be doing that in the practical class, where you can visually see all these things that is going to be done. All right. So that's that for this particular theory module class. I'll see you in the next class. Welcome back to this course. This is a complete fire alarm installation and business training. We're going to be talking about the business opportunity in the fire alarm sector or industry. It's a very lucrative industry, and you have to actually take it really, really serious. Some of us already have a company, you know, but some are just still upcoming and they've not really had, the time to register a company. They're just using their names. We're going to be talking about the benefit in this particular module, and we'll talk about the site survey and how to source for job and make quotations, to close deals. Because the aim of this training is for you to have all this information and how to convert it to deals and to sales. Okay, so you have to ensure your company is duly registered. This is the certificate. This is how it looks like, and that's for some countries of the world. That's the US and the Nigerian LLC certificate. Because it will give your company a legal identity, and it will make you a trustworthy and credible brand. People want to trust you. That it's not just your name they are dealing with. You get, so it's better you just get this sorted out, and we've taken our time to look out for some companies that are so reliable when it comes to name registration. You don't have to stress yourself. Everything will be done online. You just chat them up and they do all this registration for you. This Olakunle guy, the guy can register for a lot of companies in any part of the world. He has connection. He's a lawyer also who worked with him several times over the years, and he has proven to be reliable. And if you're an investor, you want to register a business in any country, maybe in Nigeria or in Ghana, in the US, this guy can help you out. He can carry out the registration for you on your behalf online, and you get your certificate. The world is not like a global village. It's interconnected, and no man is an island. We all need each other. Collaboration is the biggest innovation. So working with this guy will really, really, really make life easier for you. He has different packages for Nigeria, business yeah, owners. You can just get with TIN. TIN means tax identification number. You need this TIN number to open a bank account with your business name. You can do the private liability company. Some people call it LLC. In the US, they call it LLC. That's what we call it in Nigeria, private liability limited company. Okay, so this course is, meant for you to understand the nitty gritty, the installation steps of fire alarm, and how to convert all the things you have learned into business, and carve out a niche for yourself, and start making it big in the market of fire alarm. The market is so huge, is so big, and the sky is big for enough for any new takers, newcomer to fly. There are some guys in the industry already, but don't be scared. Enter the industry, make your money, and make the best out of it. This is the end of this particular class. I'll see you in the next module. Okay, so welcome back to this class. We're going to be talking about site survey in this particular lesson. Site survey. You have to carry out a site survey before you carry out any fire alarm installation. It's very advisable to do your thorough assessment of the site so you can plan, on how to execute your project. It's very important. So we have, something you have to check while doing your survey. You have to ensure that you understand the building layout. You can ask for the layout from the site engineer or from your client. You need to understand the layout, the walls, thickness of the deckings, how to pass your cable or your pipes, between the floors, between the blocks. You have to critically analyze uh, this stage, and you have to do this early enough before the time uh, you know uh, goes so fast, because you have to do the piping and make sure the link are confirmed between your smoke detector to your break glass to another detector to another detector. You understand? Then you have to ensure that you do a return back to the panel in the case of an addressable system. All this has to be done at the early stage of the project, where when the building is still like a skeletal format. You'll have brought in an electrician to do the cabling, the piping for you, and you cover everything and make sure it's intact. So project management is very important when it comes to fire alarm. You have to ensure that the right cable are used, the right electrician are engaged, the right pipes are used. This is very important to avoid a problem at the mounting or configuration stage, because the cable integrity has to be confirmed and verified. so you not have any problem when you are doing your uh, mounting of equipment. So you have to ascertain all the location and points you are putting your smoke detector. In the case of conduits, you have to use the stop box. You have to use your stop box and your pipe laid in conduit, all the points linking to each other. So it's advisable you interact and engage or collaborate with the electrician on site, or if possible, you bring your own electrician to carry out the route planning with you. You just tell him, okay, I want one smoke detector in this center. I want the brake glass at the corridor to link to this smoke detector, to link to this brake glass at the other corridor to link. You have to tell him everything, and the cable ends at the control room, which is the point you're mounting your panel. So you have to communicate clearly with your electricians, you know, at this stage. It's very important because that's the major part of the whole project, the cabling, the routing. Because at the end of the installation, if the route is not clear or the cable is not well planned, you're going to have problem. So it's better you avoid that and start planning your system early enough. Okay, so we have comparison table of fire alarm safety apps and tools. You can download an app to check, you know, uh, situation of some areas. I can use it to do research, research paper and online simulation, simulation online about some fire safety signs and all. You get so these are free applications that will also help you to learn one or two things about uh, fire alarm and how everything operates. So I would implore you to download one or two to just to try and check how uh, they operate and how they work. All right. So this is the end of this particular, survey class. Survey is very important. It's a core part of this job. You have to document and write down and do a sketch, do a proper sketch, and how the cable will route and pass. Factor it into your quotation, and so when you are implementing, you will not have problem. Thank you very much. Okay, so welcome back to this class. This is the class 6.3. We're going to be talking about how to source for jobs, how to make quotations and close deals. All right. So fire alarm is a very huge market. It's a very, very huge market, and there are a lot of opportunities, to be tapped into in the market. So as a new brand, as a brand or existing brand, you have to ensure that you have a standard logo, you have a letterhead, all right? And this can be done on Canva for free. Can do it on Canva. You get a deal, you just type your letter on it and you send. It's very important so you can have a strong brand identity. When they see your logo, it's already in everybody's mind that, oh, this is this company, this is company. It gives you some leverage in the industry. And also leverage on marketing, digital marketing. Facebook marketing is very affordable. Instagram marketing, TikTok marketing, so it's very easy for a brand to go viral nowadays compared to those days. Say, social media has made everything easy, so but you have to leverage on it. And also network locally. You have to network with your local people. Go to building materials, construction site, engage them. Talk to them about your brand. It's very important. Then also offer attractive packages. You can be doing fire alarm package, wireless standalone fire alarm packages for shops, for small shops, for restaurants, for kitchens, these detectors that can be, smart. You can activate on the phone of the owners in case of fire. So you just have to think outside the box and create something unique and carve a niche for yourself in the fire alarm industry. It's very important. You could bring in some product from AliExpress, you know, we'll show you some biggest distributors in our region in Lagos where you can buy this product and get the wireless solution or the 5 or the 7 smoke detector solution. Bundle it and put the price on it and start posting it on your page, on your social media platform. Before you know it, you get orders. Orders will start coming in for you. Then also support as a service. All right. Then you do cold outreach. You can also do referral and word of mouth. You can advertise locally and pitch your ideas. Pitch your ideas to write a proposal to a company that you feel like they need a fire alarm system. If they already have something like that, pitch your idea to them to activate maintenance. It's very, very, very important. That's a very quick way to scale, to move. All right. So that's very important. You can also bid for projects, for schools, from companies. Just go and bid. But you have to must have, gotten your documentation as a brand, your company LLC registration certificate, your TIN number, your proposal, your tax. All those things have to be intact. So it's a very serious business and you have to take it seriously. Okay, so that's that. Then also how to make quotation. You can leverage on this cloud-based quotation making application, which we call Zoho. Zoho is a very reliable application where you can build, you know, uh, invoice quotation. You can receive payments. You can integrate it to your, company system. You can use that as a CRM system, so you can manage all your clients, all their contacts, their phone numbers, and it can be accessed by your employee or yourself from anywhere in the world. So this is the steps on how to go about Zoho. Just log on to their website, Google it, create your set up your account, put your company name and logo, address, tax information, so those things will appear on your invoice by the time you are done setting up. So when you make an invoice, it will carry your company logo automatically. So invoice of 10 years ago can still be saved and be accessed for record purposes. So instead of using Excel, using Microsoft Word for invoicing, it's better you use Zoho. Zoho is smart. They have a lot of templates you can play, you can navigate with. So, you should explore it. So let's have a scenario that you have to do a quotation for a client. This is how you have to do it. To receive payment, send it to your customer, record the payment. So it's very self-explanatory. By the time you get to the website, you see this process is very, very self-explanatory on how to make the invoice. Just follow the steps, add your name, select customer, and before you know, you are boom, you are done. You are done. You know why this is rolling like this? It was set to roll. So I'll just leave you to go into the application and follow the steps. And follow the steps. And they set up the invoice yourself. It's very self-explanatory. You just to click, and type. All right. So this is the end of this particular module 6. Uh, I'll see you in module 7. Welcome back to this class. This is module 7 of the complete fire alarm installation and business training. Okay. All right. So in this particular module, we'll be talking about and introducing you guys to the top distributors of fire alarm products, where you can purchase, procure some items and some materials about fire alarm, original, quality materials in Nigeria, West Africa. Okay. All right. So these guys are, very reliable. Okay. So this is myself and my team when we went to Agvision. Agvision is trying to West Africa. They're bringing in some fire alarm product, which I think is something to explore. By the time they start, fully, then these are the guys that are fully into fire alarm in Nigeria, West Africa. You can see Trend Ventures, Class Security, Elite UK. That's their phone number and their website. You can check them out. Elite UK does not have a website, so their products are listed on Class Security website. And you can also call Trend Ventures and Google them also. That's so reliable. So we took our time to visit
Okay, so
Trend Ventures
this is
office.
Trend Ventures. This is one of the biggest distributors of fire alarm products in Lagos. They are on Odisha Street, very close to Computer Village. That's off Awolowo. Okay, so we took our time to have a tour, show you the space, so you don't have to physically go there. You can call them and place an order. You know, we are doing this for them for free. You get, so they are our partner also. So they have different kind of products from CTEC to Gent to Zeta. They represent different brands when it comes to fire alarm in Nigeria, and they're so reliable. We've dealt with them several times. All right. So the Trend Ventures, they're one of the top stakeholder when it comes to fire and safety in Lagos, Nigeria. You can check them out in Computer Village in Ikeja. All right. So they have some also some good products from fire resistant cable, smoke detector, siren. They also sell access control, and they are so reliable. You can see their other stuff they have. Okay, that's like a tour of their office. They have a lot of products. You can see the fire resistant cable. These guys are so reliable. They can ship to you anywhere in Nigeria or even Africa that you are. Okay, bye. Thank you. Okay, so this is Trend Ventures.
Okay, so this is the end of this particular uh, module. I will promise to make it very brief and straight to the point, so we won't bore you. All right, so we'll meet in the practical class where we're going to be connecting and testing all this equipment together for you to have a deep understanding of the operation of these devices, how they interact, how they connect, how they work, right? So always also endeavor to take your quiz online, and we'll see you in the practical class. Thank you.